will try and man that for volume. The board will now move on to public participation portion of the meeting. Dr. Dearman will begin with the superintendent's report. Dr. Dearman.
Did we take roll call?
We did. You were talking. Yeah, you're fine. We did the Pledge of Allegiance too.
First item, I have FOIA requests since the last meeting. Mr. McKenzie has received 7 FOIA requests, 6 of which is completed and 1 is in progress. Next up, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Ellis, and she has some special guests.
Great, good evening. The best part of being in student services is we get to see a lot of the wonderful things that are happening across the district. And the new year, we wanted to be able to showcase some of the highlights that are going on in our classrooms, some of the community partnerships we have, some of the activities, and what better way to start that with our Unified Dance team. This is a new program of students that are with our Eaglettes as well as in Mrs. Robinson and Mrs. Zook's class. So without further ado, they have a short presentation within the Special Olympics and Unified program here at Dunlap. So I will let our awesome team introduce themselves and talk about our program.
Hi, my name is Soraya. I'm a senior.
You're great.
Roman Tudor.
Roman Tudor, he's a freshman.
I'm Shayla. I'm a senior.
I'm Julia, I'm a junior.
My name is Myla.
Okay, so for Unified Dance, we practice daily during PE class, and our first performance is January 27th at the Limestone basketball game. We're super excited for that. And then we are competing at IHSA State on the 31st of January. Our dance is fully student-led.
My name is Myla.
Yeah. And it was choreographed by me and Julia also too. And our costumes, which some of us are wearing, were funded fully by Special Olympics, and we are also getting dance shoes funded by Unified Drip, so we're super excited about that too. So we've done a lot of past events. We've done Unified Field Day, we've hosted it, we've done Special Olympics bowling, we do seasonal dances, so we do Halloween and Valentine's Day dances. We've done a lot of Unified basketball games, and we have one next week on Tuesday if you guys want to come. We started Unified Soccer last year. We have a Unified Generation Committee, and we've been doing Unified Volleyball.
And then some of our inspired events is a sensory-friendly prom, and then a Unified football game and a Unified kickball game. We want to start a Unified track and field team.
Valentine's dance.
And then we eventually want to host a Valentine's dance for the schools in the Mid-Illini and their Unified programs.
Oh, very chatty today.
UGC leaders will be presenting at a TCON.
So the UGC leaders for Special Olympics will be presenting at a TCON, and then we're also participating in
Respect Week.
Respect Week, yeah. And then last but not least, we are hosting our first ever Cool School Plunge. So this is similar to the Polar Plunge. If you heard about that, you raise money
and jump into a cool or cold pool of water outside. This is going to be on March 6th. Around the end of the day, so starting around 2 p.m. on our football field. I have heard a rumor that maybe Dr. Dearman is going to plunge, and that is Dunlap. And then I heard another rumor that a father and son duo, maybe both of you guys, could be plunging.
That'll end the presentation. Thank you for coming.
And so yeah, so this is just some things that we're doing here at DHS. We've already raised over $4,000 for Special Olympics. We're incredibly excited, and I know this group has a ton of energy, and we couldn't be working with better staff or better students. So yeah, so thank you guys so much for listening to our presentation.
And now would be a good time if you guys want to duck out, to go ahead and duck out. You're not required to stay for the rest of the meeting, as exciting as it may be. Next item I have is a construction update, and I will defer to Dr. Ader.
Yeah, so good news, the field house is progressing nicely. We're going to start framing the interior walls of the lower portion probably tomorrow. And then next week, weather permitting, how this cold front goes through and snow and all that, we're going to start putting the side panels up and roof panels up. So that's going to come together nicely. Right now, we're looking at middle to late July to have it fully occupied. So I do want to show you something that just came in about an hour ago, otherwise it was in your packet. But we had the final design of the field house is completed. So this is kind of like a virtual walkthrough they put together so that our public can kind of get a glimpse of what that's going to look like. But this is a 4-minute long video. It gives you a good idea of every detail. And that curtain will go around that court. They just put it up so you can see in this video. So, like I said, that's about 99% done. We just gotta finish the work now. Other good news on the construction update, well, related to facilities, I should say, is we just got our second bill for the high school power, and over the last 2 months, we've saved between $9,000 and $10,000 since we switched to solar. So not bad, we're still kind of getting it fine tuned, but overall, we're starting to notice that in our bills.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adrian. I'll end on a couple of positive notes. Congratulations to Katie and the high school on making the AP honor roll again this year. So congratulations to them and the staff and students for that accomplishment. And then one that we've been waiting 3 years for, we are fully staffed on bus drivers for full-time routes. Hasn't happened in 3 years. So I've been getting all the texts of the buses being rearranged because we have bodies, thank goodness. So hopefully that continues. So thank you to Drew and Dr. Adrian for getting that done. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dearman. At this time, we'll move on to public comments. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, the board seeing none, the board will now move on to information discussion items. Just get this out of the way, I guess. The school activity accounts have been included in the board packet. Is there any discussion? Okay, next, Russ from Gorins and Associates will present, Russ Rumbold, sorry, from Gorins and Associates will present information regarding the FY25 audit. Welcome, Russ.
Thank you.
You need to like, because the roll call and the, say that too.
No,
Okay.
good question. Yeah.
Okay, so Russ Rumble, Barnes and Associates, we audited the financial statements of your district for the year end June 30th of 2025.
Russ, hang on a second.
Yeah.
Teresa, can you hear him okay? Teresa?
Is Teresa there?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay, fair enough.
Teresa, are you there?
I can call her. I'll text her Tom's gonna do.
She was there. We did a sound check before we started, but admittedly, I didn't.
Still connected, but maybe we dropped her some.
When I heard about the cool plunge, my hand might have jerked and I might have hit the phone. And then you're making a donation, by the way. I'm not going to be cool plunging, as it were.
You're gonna be in that water.
My healthcare provider would not be. It wouldn't be, I wouldn't get clearance.
She can hear us, we just can't hear her.
Is that right? That is not acceptable.
We could call her on speaker and that might work.
Yeah, we're muted. Yeah. All the way on.
PhD thinks that he can do it better than me over here. So
I sure do.
let's try from my phone. I mean, at least for this first part, I want to make sure that she has the ability to comment. I don't want it to be. All right, so Teresa, you can hear me. I'm going to be calling you. See if we can do it that way. Teresa, can you hear me? Teresa, can you hear me or not?
We're not voting on this anyway.
All right, so I'm going to let her listen, and we attempted this. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
As
You're
long,
on.
all right, sounds good. As long as I don't get docked for any time, you know.
Yeah, you didn't
We're
charge.
not agreeing to that.
You didn't charge. You didn't charge us for that time.
What's that?
That was your
I don't charge that time. Okay.
Clock
there you
get
go.
started a
Fair
while
enough.
ago.
Fair
Go
enough.
ahead.
No, so the first thing I was mentioning was we audited the financial statements for June 30th, 2025, and so the most important thing isn't necessarily all of the numbers because we audited those numbers, but really is the opinion we issued and the report we have on compliance and internal controls. So that being said, the opinion that we issued on the financial statements is an unmodified opinion. Some people refer to that as a clean opinion. That isn't different than what has been, that the district has had in the past, but just to mention, yeah, we did issue an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. The other report that we issue is a report over internal control used in our planning as well as compliance, and we didn't note anything that rose to the level of having a finding in the report. So those are probably the most important pages in here, although it may not feel like it, but that would be the case. And if we stay with, I think each person has one of the blue books here. If we want to stay with that, page 8, and it's a landscape page there, but this has the fund balances of the district on page 8. And so if you want to know where did the education fund or where did the capital project fund, what, any of these funds, where did they end, this would be a good place to start. So, as a board member, if you wanted to tag a page, this would be a good one to tag. The second one that I would say is fairly important is page 10. Just flip the page one more time. And so page 10 is, so I think of it as how did we do, right, as a district, would kind of refer back to revenues versus expenses, and how are we would basically be the fund balance. So how did we do? Page 10, about a little over halfway through, you can see the results of each individual fund as far as revenues received versus expenditures dispersed. So in Ed Fund, $2.785 million, that the expenses exceeded the revenues. The Building Fund, about $200,000, expenses outpaced revenues. And Transportation, $500,000 surplus, or revenues exceeded expenses. And then the working cash, $700,000. So the handout that we're going to cover that's up on the screen is primarily going to key off of those funds. That would be the Ed Fund, Building Fund, Transportation Fund, and working cash, just because that's the health of the district right there. How is the district doing? And then again, this page here, if there was one page, you have the ending fund balances on all of the funds as well as, how did we do? I've been given pop quizzes to boards. I thought I'd go with extra credit tonight, so there will be an extra credit section. But also page 13, we're going to see local revenues. And local revenues always to me seems a little, what is local revenues, So number one, we know local revenues is real estate taxes. So if you just focus on the far right-hand column, you can see $42 million is real estate taxes. So that's local revenue. And if you come down a little further, just stop at the millions. So 1.1 million. That's corporate replacement tax. Again, a local revenue. Coming down further, 2.4 million interest earnings on the investments, $2.4 million. And then focus all the way at the bottom, the school facility occupational tax versus sales tax, $2 million. So again, this kind of gives some context of what is local revenue. You can see here on this page, or if you ever need to come back and say, now what was local revenue? Well, here it is. It is on page 13. The only other page in here that I will mention, I think it's a good page, is all the way in the back, page 51, not quite all the way in the back, but would be the fund balances before the advanced taxes. And so I'll give you a minute to get there. Page 51 again, it's a landscaped page. Okay, so page 51, far right-hand column is the total for all the funds. And if you draw it all the way down to the second number up, it's $21 million. So in June, the district received, what, $21 million of real estate taxes, and it went into the bank. So it's really, you know, that $21 million is really set aside, almost should be set aside to think, well, we received that, that's really to fund next year's budget. Well, that's in these ending fund balances. So I always like to take a look at where were the fund balances before that $21 million. So if you just go one more line up, about $35 million of fund balance before those advanced taxes. And if you take that line all the way to the left, that's the education fund, has about 13.8. It's about 3.74 months, 3.775 months worth of expenditures. You know, and you can follow it through and do the math, but the O&M fund, or the operation and maintenance fund, has about 3 months. And so that's, again, something that you might want to focus on, might take a look at. Okay, well, with that being said, we can always come back. Yes.
Just for reference, if anybody wanted to look at this report, it is on the district website already. So, yes, okay. So the annual financial statements are on the district website. So.
Okay, excellent. That being said, I'm going to transition to the handout. Each one of you should have it. It's up on the screen as well. And that first page, again, the handout, looks like everybody has it. So with the handout, the first section is fund balance. So, you know, there's 23, 24, and 25. And you can see about $211 million of fund balance if we looked at the audit report, but what most of that's made up of the building contents, equipment, those types of things, and then there's some restricted funds. So if we get to the net equity in the operating funds, about $36.6 million. And again, the operating funds are the education fund, building fund, transportation fund, and working cash, all those funds combined. And then the middle section of this is, well, how do we do compared to budget as far as actual revenue, actual expense versus budget by the ed fund, building fund, and transportation fund. Like to see that plus or minus 10%. You can see the building fund looks a little fuzzy, doesn't it? The 200 and some odd thousand. So I didn't even think about it. This could be extra credit as well. Somebody knows what the answer there is, but Mike probably does. So, but in any event, unanticipated transfers, right, of $8.5 million. So again, if you pull money out of an operating fund and put it over into capital projects, not an operating fund, you're pulling money out of the operating funds and sliding it over there. So some unbudgeted transfers. The bottom section has the financial profile, the score of the district. And again, this is the first go around. ISB ultimately sets the profile scores. 3.65, that was an improvement from 3.55. And that's primarily the outstanding debt of the district. Each year that goes by, pay down some of the principal, and ended up getting to a point where you picked up, from 3.55 to 3.65. If you're curious, why not a 4.0 expenses to revenue? That would be the issue of the 3.65 versus 4.0. Next page of the handout, 23, 24, 25, and the far right-hand column is the change. I focus on the change, what additional dollars came into the district and from where. $1.786 million came into the district, and so primarily it was what? Evidence-based funding. I would never suspected that. If you asked me just to guess where that would have been without seeing the numbers, I wouldn't have guessed that. I did have to go back and look just to double check. That was new dollars that the state put into evidence-based funding. So out of $300 billion, the district ended up with about $1.897 or $1.9 million. The expenses, if you follow all the way to the bottom and the second line up, $2,562,000 more of expenses. It's about 5.1% additional expenses over the previous fiscal year. And then you can see the 1.748 is those funds combined, as far as revenues or expenditures outpacing revenues. And just for fun, and I've already given you the answer somewhat, but if you looked at page 1 and you saw the fund balance change, it's a negative $10 million coming out of the operating funds, and yet this is 1.748. And kind of let the cat out of the bag already when you do the transfers, moving it out of the operating funds into capital project, which is not an operating fund. That's where you get this difference between these two. And this is going to come up in one more graph as well. Okay, next page is where do the dollars come from? And just more of a picture. And you can see real estate taxes are a big deal. 67% of a dollar that the district receives is real estate tax. And then you can see evidence-based funding of other local revenue, which we talked about previously, is at 11%. Okay. So how are categories doing? Just historically looking at revenues. And you can see real estate taxes have been increasing the last couple of years. Other local revenues kind of flattened off, and that's going to be, again, interest, primarily interest and corporate replacement tax. Evidence-based funding, I put WOW next there. I wouldn't have guessed that to jump, but it did. Other state sources really depends on timing. And then federal and flow-through primarily is going to be Title I, IDEA, some federal, whether it's the school nutrition program, that's what those dollars are.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You mentioned that evidence-based funding, that jump. What is that attributed to? And you may have told us this before.
Yeah, we moved from a Tier 2 district to a Tier 1 district because when they do the math at the state, our percent of adequacy of funding in that formula is only about 70%, which it moved us down to the Tier 1, which is where you get the most money, gets assigned to Tier 1 districts. And I mean, it's really kind of saved the budget. I mean, the same thing happened this year, where that's the biggest change in the last couple of years has been the fact that
And do we anticipate that continuing?
Yeah, I don't see us falling out of Tier 1 right now. I mean, there have been some shifting of that because of during COVID, the personal property replacement tax in some of these communities got shifted around. Some shifted, but it's kind of shifted back now. So we should be. I don't expect us to fall out of that Tier 1.
Good. Thanks.
Anytime soon. So we went from when I first started here, we had maybe $3 million in evidence funding. We're up over 6 now. I think even over 7 this year. So it's really helped us. Hopefully they'll continue to increase that funding every year.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Are trying to do.
Okay. Next page of the handout is expenditures of education, operation and maintenance, transportation, and then the total of the operating funds fiscal year 24-25. And the grand total was an increase of $2,562,000. We've seen that number previously, and if you're interested, most of that is in salaries and benefits, right? So about a 6.5% increase in salaries and benefits overall. Next page, where are those dollars spent? This one, 81% is on the high side. Okay, as far as salaries and benefits. Now, when I back up and look at it, so I was in a district yesterday, and most of their special ed is paid to a cooperative. That's not necessarily the case here at Dunlap, is it? And most of those expenses that are paid to the cooperative get consumed in salaries and benefits as well. So you can see the other objects here of the district, 2%. Most of your special ed is already in salaries and benefits. And so that 81% makes sense in that context. But, again, 81% is probably on the high side for most districts. But again, if the special education is in-house, it should be higher. Next page of the handout, what are the categories of expenditures doing? And as you can see, salaries and benefits have been increasing. Purchase services increasing slightly. Supplies and materials actually came down some this year. Capital outlay, typically that's going to be buses and your summer projects. And then the other objects, again, other objects is primarily going to be payments for special ed, maybe to, I guess I'm not sure right off the top of my head, but again, it's not that much. Next page of the handout, revenues and expenses, and the yellow line would be the revenues and the other expenses. And you can see they've been fairly tight. Expenditures have been greater than the revenues for what? All but a few years, right there. Next page of the handout is the 9-month average daily attendance, as well as the comparative estimated operating expense per pupil. And as you can see, 4,498, we didn't count students, we didn't stop by and count. This is something that's reported to ISBE, so it should be a consistently reported number. And then the bottom has the operating expense per pupil, and again, that's a mandated calculation. It's nothing we come up with ourselves. And you can see that 4,498. So unit districts in the state of Illinois, I think I've got this somewhere, about 387. So Dunlap district, as far as size, student count wise, probably about 40 or thereabouts. Unit districts. And then you can see the bottom has the expense per student. I did pull. Tom had asked me to, hey, last year you told us a couple different districts, what is that? How do we compare, And so I did pull some, and I think, when you start talking about 4,000 students, there really isn't that many districts within that. You look around and, well, okay, 150 has quite a few more school, pupils than Dunlap does, but as far as comparability, Morton has about 3,000. They clock in at 12,465 operating expense per pupil, and this is 2024. If you were interested, people that are right at the 4,000, Bloomington 17,500. Is it Chatham? I think that's all Chatham, right? Yeah, right. Yeah, there you go. So they're at 12,037. Danville clocks in at 24,894. So that gives you kind of a feel for where things are comparative wise. And let's see, next page of the handout has the comparative assessed value on the top and the tax rate on the bottom of the district. And I guess so.
Russ, let me ask you real quick. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And thank you for getting those numbers. When you take that 12,115, our number, are you just taking our total expenses into that 4,498 or not?
Now,
how are you breaking that out?
There's a
formula.
There's a formula.
Okay.
And it's not my formula, it's the state's formula.
You think it's reasonable or no? You don't like it?
It's consistent.
Okay.
How's that?
Sure.
And it's consistent across the board for everybody. Okay. So I think it's something you can look at and say, well, this is a consistently applied number, and we should be able to compare ourselves somewhat to other districts. Okay. They're going through the same calculations. By the way, the numbers I just read would be compared to the 2024, because the information for 25 isn't out yet for districts. I mean, yours is 12,115. Right. But we don't know other districts as of 25. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Sorry. Yep. Go ahead. So the next page of the handout, like I was saying, assessed value at the top, tax rate at the bottom, and remember that the real estate taxes are the biggest driver, right? It's the biggest revenue generator. So these are important things. And as you can see from the assessed value, you crossed the $1 billion mark the district did as far as assessed value of the district. And that's a 7.5% increase from the previous year. And then you can see the tax rate of 4.4362. Next page of the handout, the operating fund balances. And, you know, we've talked about this a little already. And, you know, if we would have just looked at this, just flat out looked at this, you might say, what happened, right? I mean, we went from what to what, 24 to 25. But again, we've talked about this like 3 or 4 different times to where some of the dollars have been pulled out of your operating funds, working cash primarily, and moved over into the capital projects fund. So that is the dip there. Let's see, we're getting to the end. On behalf payments. It's just to mention that the state hypothetically, it's not hypothetically, they put cash into the TRS system on behalf of the district. This is more of an actuarial valuation rather than the state, but you can see the state path, you know, they designate so many dollars to go into TRS on behalf of the district. And that's $15 million. So I don't know if I've gone through this recently, but you know, if you think about the pension, the net pension liability, and again, this is actuarial numbers, but still good information. So the total net pension liability, $189 million. And if you're going to guess, well, I mean, the state's going to cover some, we're going to cover some, right? Well, the state out of that $189 million, $187 million is the state's share. So, you know, it's kind of like, well, the district, we don't have a huge responsibility here other than, I mean, you start looking at the numbers and how big the numbers are, and I don't want to fearmonger. I mean, this hasn't been an issue for quite some time to where the state's kind of looked at the districts and said, hey, we kind of like to push some of this back, right, of these unfunded dollars. And I suppose politicians have to get elected, so it hasn't been spoken about in a while. But anyway, and again, not to fearmonger at all, it's just good information to know, hey, that's what's happening. Okay, and the last page, no, it's not the last page, there's bonus pages here. So the outstanding debt of the district, and you can see, you know, there's been a steady decline. You're down to almost $30 million, and I know if I looked today, that would be different, I think. Yeah, okay. To where you're doing some projects, and you can see the high in 2013, 76 mil, and you've brought it down to about 30 mil as of June 30th of 2025. I always include the next couple pages. I guess I would look at these next couple pages and say my guess of why the assessed value is $1 billion is because of all the commercial property, because Dunlap reaches down into Peoria, carves the top into Peoria. But it's not, is it? Take a look at the residential as far as the assessed value is concerned and see where those increases are coming from. Not to say you wouldn't want the commercial, right? That's a great base to have, but really the residential is the bigger driving force out of the two. And that's, you know, again, if you're just going to ask me what drives it, I would have guessed commercial several years ago. I know this trend, but anyway, it's good information to know. And the state railroad kicks in so much, right? You can see that. Well, no, you can't see it. So that's the end of the presentation. I don't know if there's specific questions.
Tom, I have a question when it's my turn.
It's your turn, Teresa.
Yeah. Okay. So Russ, I got a question for you. You had, and I'm going to focus on the financial profile score. I know that went up. Looks like the 3.65. You indicated that is because we were paying down the debt. What do you anticipate that would be next year when we bond for Wilder Weight? You also indicated that our reserves are down to 3.75 months, if I heard correctly, for the Ed Fund operation. O&M is 3 months. What do you anticipate will happen to that financial profile score?
That's a great question. I have not run the numbers, but it's, you know, if all things were consistent, you're definitely a 3.55. I mean, the that change is going back to a 355 at least.
Yeah, and I ran the numbers for the new debts, and we will go back to the 3.55.
Right. Are you projecting for next year revenues to outpace expenses, or, I mean, that would be the other factor.
We're still looking at it
at a deficit.
So it'll be probably back to that 3.55.
That's probably what I would guess as well, is the 355. You're definitely not hanging on to the 365.
Right, and that was my other point. Thank you, Mike, for bringing that up. We've seen a deficit several years in a row, continue to most likely see that. That's why I'm asking that question.
Yeah. And the other question you had was the advanced taxes, the months of reserves, if you will. I think we had that at 374 in the education fund. So, you know, I mean, I've always said, you know, obviously we don't have a policy. It's not our policy. It's really the district policy. And I don't know if you've ever formally said, hey, this is what we want as a district. But, you know, we look at it to say, yeah, you should have 3 to 6 months. And I think you could probably go back to previous presentations, and that's what I would say. You probably should have 3 to 6 months, right? And preferably, and I know it's not there, I really like some dollars in the rainy day fund, if you will, that's your working cash fund. And I understand why some money was moved out of it, but it would be nice.
Thank you, Russ.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions for Russ?
I might have one on, I don't quite understand the on behalf. So back in 21, the state gave us 19 million.
Well, there's no money that changes hands here. This is just an actuarial amount of what they should have put into TRS.
So what made it drop to 15? What's the $4 million or why does that change?
It could be that they've changed assumptions, the actuaries, you know, in calculating that. But again, it's an actuarial calculation. It isn't, like Mike said, this doesn't relate necessarily to cash moving hands. There are funds that go into TRS, right? I mean, the states, I don't know what the amount they carve off and actually put in, but this is actuarially determined numbers.
This is just for our district, what they should have, you know, what the actuaries say they should have put into TRS for us in the last year. We never see any money, and it's all between the state and TRS. And
right.
But then there's a formula that we have that Russ does to figure out what they should have put in for us. And, you know, for a long time they weren't. Now they are putting a lot of money into TRS, and obviously TRS has had a few years, you know, good returns, so their percent of funding has increased to like 50% now, which used to be more like 40%. But, you know, this is a weird number that we have to put in there. And I always remind people, we never see a dime. It's all between the state and TRS, because they're, you know, we pay 9% of the teacher's salary, you know, goes into, we pay to TRS on behalf of the teachers, but then the state is supposed to put in a percent also, and that's what this is supposed to represent.
Okay.
Just like you and your business, you put in 7.65% into Social Security and Medicare, and the employee put 7.65. With TRS, it's 9% that we put in through the employees, and then the state's supposed to put in the other 10% or so. What this is supposed to represent. So.
Okay.
Good. And then, any other questions? I'll just make, just because we're talking about bonds, I don't know where else to stick it in the agenda, but just to put a button on an issue from the last couple meetings. So with the new bonds that we just talked about for, you know, what'll affect the score moving forward, et cetera, the final answer in round numbers is that yes, this refi of the bonds is adding a couple of years, 2 years to the whole thing, but it is netting $1 million less had we not
Right,
kick them out for 2 years.
that is correct.
Okay. Any questions about that? Okay, just wanted to.
And we are having 44 million more, but we're also having pay downs this year, and that's why that financial score will still be under 50% of our debt service allowance, and that's why that financial score goes back to 355.
But that's a guess by both of you, 355. I mean, it could be.
Yeah. I mean,
You don't know.
Yeah,
You just-
no,
right?
no,
Neither of you know. for
No,
sure.
not until we get there.
Okay, well, sure. All right, we'll come back. We'll see how it is. I keep the packet.
That's right, I like that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Russ. Appreciate you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, I want to go back to, just real quick, when we were having some technical difficulties, Teresa had a question about the school activity account report, so I want to go back to that item. Teresa, do you want to state your question?
My question is, and maybe Mike can answer this, and it's related to the activity accounts versus on the bill list. I see on the bill list for the DHS activity account, keep in mind it's the bill list. It says donations from private sources for $16.50 and other revenue for $23,675. Can you help me understand why that's on the bill list and what's going on there?
We are,
Why don't you come over here? Mike, why don't you come over here?
I can't hear him.
Okay.
That's a neat trick though, Mike, yes.
I didn't catch all the numbers you're saying, but I know this month we are paying to the activity funds, the DHS activity funds. We've got some Caterpillar matching grants of like 20-some thousand when they were doing the 10 times, and so or whatever Caterpillar was doing. But I know we got a bunch of matching grants that came to the district accounts, and now we wrote a check to the high school activity fund so it can go to some of it was robotics, some of it was swimming, some of it was, there were several things. So that was the big amount to the activity funds. It came to the district accounts, and then we pay it to them, just because it came to our account instead of the activity fund account.
I'm sorry, so if I would look at the activity accounts for this month, I should see that in there under revenue?
No, it would actually reduce the revenues, yes, in this case. You wouldn't see that yet because it would be in January, because we had revenues that came into our other revenue account, thinking it was coming to the district, but it really was supposed to go to the the activity funds. So we get those occasionally, but not very often. So.
Okay. All right. That's it on that, Teresa.
I'm good. Thanks, Tom.
Yep. Okay, so now we will go to information regarding the HVAC replacement at the high school and boiler replacement at Hickory Grove has been included in the board packet. Is there any discussion? And I know that someone had a
I'll give you a little bit of background on
Sure.
that. Dr. Dearman came to you in October.
Let's come up here so Teresa can hear the booming voice.
Dr. Dearman came to you in October about some of the infrastructure concerns that you have that may not be new construction, but maintenance. We have 10 buildings in the district we've got to maintain. The oldest one dates back to 1945, Dunlap grade. We're going to add 2 new buildings here in the next 30 months. So we'll have 12 buildings, so something to consider, 12 to maintain. Hopefully the newer ones will be easier to maintain. We'll have to worry about those for a while. But as Dr. Dearman and I worked through some of these infrastructure concerns, he had me put into place a 10-year pavement plan when I first came on. Then there was a 10-year roof maintenance plan we came on. So we feel good about those. I think we're in really good shape because you guys and the previous board committed to maintaining those throughout the summer projects, whether it was, $60,000 for just general roof maintenance, or maybe it was doing $250,000, $300,000 in pavement maintenance in our district. If you think about the pavement we got, that's a lot. And I know you guys get complaints about a lot of things, but I know you get them about potholes too. So we try to maintain that. But as you get deeper into the infrastructure and working with our HVAC And I think Teresa brought it up a couple years ago, why are we having so many problems with HVAC? So we're trying to get a handle on that. We've got a monitoring system in place that we feel good about. But when you look at the data, we've got 8 units on top of this building, 24 units on top of this building alone. We've had so many add-ons. 8 of them are from 1997. So they're nearing the end of their life. They're 20 to 25 year units. And they've been pretty reliable for the last 5 years. But I mean, compressors go down, they can be replaced. Motors go down, they can be replaced. Bladders for Freon can't always be replaced or repaired. So we vastly underestimated what it would cost to replace those, because the cost of those are similar to buses in the last several years. They just keep going up and up and up. So when we set out, I mean, Dr. Dimmer and I talked about a plan to replace these 1997s, because eventually you're going to have to replace them all in the next 4 or 5 years. And we don't want to replace all of them in 1 year. So we said, we'll just pick away at it 2 at a time. Well, during that process, we had a boiler go down in the high school, junior wing. So the way boilers work, there's usually multiple boilers, 2 or 3, and they work on what's called redundancy. So boiler A will work and be the lead for 1 week. Boiler B will be the backup for that, more run a little bit of power out that way. And then the next week, boiler B will be up running and boiler A backs down. If you got 3, this kind of does that same thing. It's called redundancy. So we've gone several months without that second boiler at the high school, the junior wing. So it's running at full capacity. When it does that, it depletes its lifespan too. So that had to be added to that. In that same time, Hickory Grove lost 1. So, and they've got 3 over there, so they've been running at 2. But still, as you do that, it takes away at the age and the longevity of the lifespan of those 2 existing. So that's why we decided to put them all out for bid. They were actually bid in 2 packages. Hickory Grove was kind of separate, and the high school was with its own package. They came back higher than what they are, or higher than what we wanted them to be. The bids, you saw the bid tabulation, they're pretty competitive, and all good people bidding them. So we felt good about the number of people that bid them and the quality of the contractors. But that's where it came back at. Now, I've talked with a couple of you. Yeah, you can defer this and move it down the road, but we can't defer the boilers. I think we got to have those. You know, the rooftops, the main one that we're worried about, the one that covers the office and the front hallway, that's down quite a bit. I mean, if you've been in the office, it's down quite a bit. We get all kinds of complaints. Dr. Jeremy and I talked about that during the week. Like, man, we get so many complaints when those rooms offer a few degrees in September. And then if they're hot for multiple days in a row, we lose a lot of grace because people are losing their patience at that time of year. So the last thing we want to do is have 1 unit go down in September on a 100-degree day. But, you know, think about the equipment we're relying on. It's not very good. So again, as Dr. Dearman and I spoke, we felt it needs to be brought to you guys to decide how you want to handle it. I felt, honestly, there's a level of negligence if I don't bring it to you. We just keep patching stuff up, and then, you know, I'm gone, and then 3 or 4 years later, we need to replace 8 of these things in, you know, 6 months. What's happening? So that's kind of where this is coming from. We do need to make some moves on this. Whether or not you want to make all of that, it's entirely up to you, because next month I'm bringing you the information for summer projects. But the reason why I brought this early is the supply chain in these units is a lot longer than getting Tazewell County or whoever out to do asphalt and concrete. And we don't want to start next year without functioning in this building. I mean, you guys get a lot of complaints, but I know most of them probably come from the high school. It's the biggest building, it's one that gets the most use. The most people are in here, so you're getting more people, more eyes to complain. But this is a priority, you know, and then right behind that, we've got all the units on top of Dunlap Middle School, 1999s. Now, the chiller that runs that is 10 years old and pretty reliable, but those air handlers are all 1999s over there. So we've got some antiquated equipment that we're going to have to figure out how we want to diligently replace that without, you know, being too crazy in 1 year. So that's the logic behind this proposal, and understood it's more than any of us want it to be, but those are competitive numbers, and that's where they came from. So that's the information.
Scott,
Yeah, go ahead.
the funding for this, we can use some of the county school facility sales tax, is that correct?
Yeah, you can. I mean,
This is a capital, so
you
this
can help
will have to
offset some
come
of
out
that.
of reserves.
We've been very
Presentation we
fortunate,
just
yeah, with
watched.
that. We've been very fortunate with that fund, because the last couple of years we have replaced boilers with that impromptu work with Mike McKenzie to do that. So that goes pretty quickly when you start doing boilers and HVAC. But yes, you could.
A couple of questions. You said you didn't think it was gonna be this high. I'm just curious, what'd you think it was gonna be?
About 500,000.
Okay,
For the whole,
with the
everything.
two, instead of
Yeah.
750.
Now, granted, these are the highest this price could ever be right now.
Sure.
Because we have in there some contingencies built. When you're putting these new units in there, there could be electrical issues, and running electrical could be a big expense. So those are accounted for in here. Hopefully we don't have to. Hopefully that's good. But we ran into that a couple years ago with asphalt. We bid a price, but then there was some base that wasn't there, like, oh, we didn't account for that. So we want to make sure any contingency was accounted for in there.
Couple more questions.
Yeah.
The Hickory Grove, I mean, that is it 10 years old?
2013, it'll be 13 years old.
12 years old, 13 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, so older than I thought, than I remembered.
And we thought that'd be about 125,000 to 150. It's more because our contractors and engineers have felt like the piping that goes into that is causing a lot of the problems because we've already replaced one there. So they've gotten together and they've designed a new piping thing that's included in this to not only help the new one, but to also help the older ones. So I think there's an error there.
And so I thought it was 10, it's really 13, but 13 years, I mean, that's a far cry from, you started your talk here with 1945.
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, is that odd? I mean, is that?
No, new technology like that unfortunately doesn't always last as long. Like the Wilder Wade steam boiler, that's still going. You know, but you know, you've got to have, so.
Maybe we'll keep it
they
as
have
part
to
of
be
the new
energy
building.
efficient. They have to be energy efficient now in the new code, so that raises the price up for all that stuff. The new code really impacts the bottom line.
All right, last question, and maybe I missed it when you were going through this. Initially, you were talking about redundancy and some other things, but I wasn't following exactly. So I'm going off the memo that's actually in the board packet. For the high school, I heard what you said about the boiler, but the two separate RTUs.
Right.
When you put these all together, it's the 500,000, but are these all, I mean, is this part of the redundancy thing you talked about, or can any of these all have to be done at the same time?
If I had it, we absolutely, in my opinion, we have to do the boilers. At the high school, one, because there's not one in that area. And number two, we've got 3 over there at Hickory Grove, and they're only running on 2. So you got to do those. Then it comes to the rooftop, I think it's 8, that controls this in the main hallway and part of the cafeteria and C hallway. That's the one that it's on its last leg. It needs, in my opinion, needs replaced, in Joe's opinion, and some outside contractors' opinion that we consult with. And then the fourth one is the one that's just not very efficient because we've added on to this building multiple times that's asked to control and climate control a larger area than it's supposed to. So it needs maintenance because it's always running at 100%. So of all the ones we've got up there, these are the 2 that we identified right away.
But there's 2 RTUs.
At the high school.
And a boiler.
Right.
So it's 3 at the high school out of all the ones you're saying. Those are the 3 that you identified that have to get done.
I think the boiler at the high school is number 1.
Okay.
The boiler at Hickory Grove is number 2.
Okay. And then the 2 RTUs after that.
Right.
At the high school.
Right.
But that even in your bid, either one, you don't break out the RTU from the boiler. You're just showing it to us as a whole 500,000.
Right.
Okay.
That was the way KED, so KED did this design for us. We are using them because we didn't have a whole lot of luck with Farnsworth Mechanical on the pool unit. You guys know all about that. So we've kind of been farming some of this out to different architects and engineers to get a flavor for what they offer. So KED was doing the field house. We're really happy with their work and design there. So we gave them opportunity to bid this, and they identified a lot of these things and said, hey, you're gonna have a better bidding package if you lump these 3 together and then do that one separate. So that's why we did that.
So that's how they all got it, and they all came back with relatively similar numbers.
Exactly.
Together.
Right.
All right, other questions?
I have a question.
Nick?
You were mentioning that the boilers seem to be like the number one thing, right? Isn't there also a boiler down at Ridgeview as well?
Not that I'm aware of. Okay. There was one done this summer that we had some valve problems and we had to call MSI and they did all the valve replacement. But there was one there then. Yeah. I mean, there could be one go down temporarily, and they may not even tell me.
Okay.
But when one goes out of commission, they're like, hey, we got one out of commission. Heating element or something like that they can't repair is a problem.
Okay. Yeah, I thought there was one over there that was down as well.
Yeah, I could check on it, but not that I'm aware.
Tom, my quick question.
What's that?
Hang on, hang on, Teresa.
Okay.
Would it start,
I'm sorry.
when would the replacement start if we were to get the money in? Does it have to be in the summer?
Yeah, this summer, hopefully. I mean, it's all supply chain, and hopefully we'd have it in the spring, and we started right in the summer.
Yusuf just asked Dr. Adrian when he would be thinking about this, and he responded with summer.
Yeah.
So Teresa has a question.
Yeah.
And Tom, I want to let you know I got to drop here in a couple minutes. I'm going to be boarding a plane. One of my questions is, and I don't know if it's out there, I know there's a lot of priority maintenance items that need to be done. This HVAC is part of it. Do we have a 5-year capital plan, something that's going to show us what we do anticipate per year to spend based on the highest priority, medium, low, that type of thing?
Well, yes, Dr. Jeremy shared a framework for that in October. This is kind of the first step of these immediate things we need to do. We can absolutely occupy a 5-year plan very easily for that. We thought we'd start with the most critical needs right now, and knowing that we would probably move to 2 more RTUs on the high school, the 97s, next year, unless something else popped up that absolutely had to be replaced.
And for Hickory Grove, knowing that that building's only 13 years old, would this have been expected to have to replace so soon?
That was my question.
At Hickory Grove?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. We already replaced one over there, and like I mentioned, you may have missed it, but that's one thing that our engineers have identified, and the last contractor was in there. The piping that goes to those was not ideal and did not allow for the proper circulation, in their opinion. And that's why this bid's a little bit more to improve that piping over at Hickory Grove for all of those boilers. We did that recently with Dunlap Valley too, as they lost one.
Okay, so my question, my next comment would be when we build Wilder Way here coming up, can we ensure that we do that correctly? So we don't encounter this issue 10 years down the road?
Well, they're gonna do it by obviously the required specifications on that unit, and we're making sure we're doing that with KED's gonna make sure they comply with all those installation requirements. I'm not sure what the warranty is on those units, but I can find that out.
13 years.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or
Yeah,
talk to the builder that built it, right? We know who that is. I just don't want to get into the same issues, right? When we're doing a new building.
Yeah.
Let's take the lesson learned and go from there. Thank you, Tom. I'm gonna have to drop.
Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
safe travels.
Bye.
Dr. The RTU replacements, is it a one-for-one same size?
Yeah.
Or are they suggesting any
Same.
expansion because of, like the one that you said, it's overworked all the time? Is that
Yeah.
a bigger unit than the one
Same
that's there?
size. No, it's the new equivalent, and it's energy efficient, and it's also energy reserving per code. So they're all new units for that process, and it's supposed to be, because it's more efficient, handle the space better.
Okay.
Yeah. But like I said, hopefully we don't need all the extra wiring and conduit and stuff, but that's worst case scenario on those. And again, we want to bring it to you because we don't want in several years, all of a sudden you got to replace 6 or 8 of them.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on that?
No, thanks.
Okay, this concludes the information discussion items. The board will now move on to the consent agenda. Is there any discussion regarding items on the consent agenda? Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
You, Andrew, is there a second?
No second.
Thank you, Nick. Time is 7:07. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Miranda?
Bateman,
Aye.
Hall,
Aye.
Tyra,
Aye.
Eichenbach,
Aye.
Ham,
Aye.
Butcher.
Aye.
Motion carries. The board will now move on to action items. The bill list, treasurer's report, district investment report is included in the board packet. Could I have a motion to approve payment of the bills?
I'll move to approve the bills in the amount of $5,757,652.64 as presented.
Thank you, Mick. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tim. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Hall,
Aye.
Tyra,
Aye.
Weidenbach,
Aye.
Yen,
Aye.
Bergeron,
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye. Motion carries. Information regarding the Press Plus Update 120 Board Policy revisions has been included in the board packet. Can I have a motion to approve the updates? I'll move to approve the board policy updates as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mick. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Tyra,
Aye.
Weidenbach,
Aye.
Yen,
Aye.
Bergeron,
Aye.
Feldman,
Aye.
Hall.
Aye.
This concludes the action item portion of the meeting. Okay. So I'm going to be making a motion to close, to adjourn. What did I just say? I'm going to make a motion to adjourn to closed session for the purpose of, I guess, A, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees. Just so the public knows, this is to talk about the upcoming superintendent search. And we're going to get into the meat of that a little bit further and come back with some more information to the public. So, is there anything else that someone thinks they're going to bring up in closed session that would like to disclose that now of this list? Okay, then I need a second on my motion. Okay, Youssef, thank you. Yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the time is, motion carried, and the time is 7:10, moving to closed session.